Hey, we're up, Vinnie. There were many who thought we'd never make it. They laughed.
Mikey.
They laughed at us when they said we're going to be on all the streaming devices on this Freaky Friday. Boy, a fractious Friday.
Yes, a thank God Friday. Can I go with that? Can I go with it? It's a thank God Friday. Thank God that you're here. Um,
Well, I had my doubts a couple times. I'll tell you that. Between the last
yeah,
time we saw each other, between Wednesday and today, we lived a lifetime.
yeah. I mean, it must just be like living on another planet, being down there. But let me just quick. He's Michael Knight. I'm New York Vinny. This is Mikey and Vinny. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Um, we were not here.
Vinny's in Seattle. I'm in Pasadena. He did not burn down, and I damn near did.
Yes, Michael is right smack dab in the middle of the fire, and luckily, I shouldn't say smack dab in the middle. I should say in
Adjacent.
another place from it, because smack dab in the middle means you would be in your shorts.
Or somebody else's.
Yes. So, Michael, I'm really going to I want you to kind of just talk about this, because this is, number one, you have a ton of people who have been checking in over the past day to see how you are, um, from coast to coast, to make sure that
Well,
you're all right.
I thank them all for their concern. But Kristen and I were extremely lucky. We did get notified 7 o'clock on Tuesday morning to prepare to evacuate. The phones go off and woke us up, and that's a shitty way to be awakened. I can assure you. The message is just one paragraph on your phone, and it just says, "This is your evacuation warning. Get your act together. The next one means you're out." And it was a result of the fire that started in Palisades. All was well. We're watching the fire like the rest of the nation was, and thinking how awful this could be. And then at 8 o'clock that night, the fire, unrelated in terms of the embers that are spreading these fires, started in the hills above Pasadena in a community called Altadena in the San Gabriel Mountains, at the foot of the San Gabriel Mountains, where the fire began in an area called Eaton Canyon. And now everyone knows it as the Eaton Fire. The Palisades fire is on the west side of LA. The Eaton Canyon fire is on the San Gabriel side in the valley where they play the Rose Bowl, where we just saw Ohio State destroy Oregon. And in a similar way, Mother Nature did the same thing to us. Santa Ana winds happen every year. It's a seasonal thing, and they blow warm and they blow convincingly. But the winds that we had this time around were to the point where the trees that withstood the wind were actually shaking beyond their ability to control themselves. If you had seen these trees, you would have said, "This is the end of the story. They're all going to come down." And in our neighborhood, of course, that's exactly what happened. We had trees, major trees down in every block, and they're still down. There's nobody working on them. There's no street cleaner coming by. All public services have been suspended. We can't drink our water. You have to get water. That was a trip this morning at 7 o'clock. I'm on the road checking out the grocery stores to see which one had water. And I went to Trader Joe's because they don't open till 8. And I thought, well, I'll have a shot at the stuff because there won't be a long line of people. There were only 10 of us, but we took all the water there was. They didn't have a great deal. Then I went to Pavilions, which is a subsidiary of Safeway, and they had a giant stack of water right by the front door. And they had been open all night. So I outfoxed myself in that regard. But you can't drink the water here in Pasadena because of the pollutants in this water supply that had been supplied by the fire and the firestorm that we've been suffering through, and the incredible amount of crap that's in the air. You have to wear your mask outside because Vinny, it's like snow that's coming down in all directions. It's in every parking lot, on every deck, on every car, on every tree, on every bush, on every sidewalk.
This is so cool.
The incredible amount of ash that's in the air is really astounding.
How you how are you breathing? How is your breathing? Do you need masks? Do you need
You have to wear a mask. The air outside is treacherous.
and there's no Republicans running around tell you to take that mask off, you pussy.
That'll be next week.
Okay, just checking.
They're in abeyance for this week, and then there'll be Republicans next week. And I don't know who's going to be the first one to tell you there was no fire, but one of them will come up with that idea.
It's a conspiracy by
The
the California Democrats and Gavin Newsom.
the funny thing about these fires and the winds that drove them is I can't accurately describe how powerful the winds were, with gusts up to anywhere between 40 to 80 miles an hour, depending on what neighborhood you were in. And that's what drove the flames to the point where the Eaton fire, the one that's near us in Pasadena that began in Altadena, started at 20 acres, and in less than an hour, it was at 300 acres. And it continued to grow. That now it's at 18,000 acres.
It's still going.
And it continued. It's still burning. It's not. It's not. There's zero containment. There is wilderness that is allowing it to burn out in certain directions, but the Mount Wilson Observatory had to be saved. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory had to be saved. Caltech had to be saved. The town of Altadena, however, there was no saving in it. No effort on earth could have saved that town. And the residential area, the business area of Palisades and of Altadena and Pasadena and the hills look identical today. You can't tell one from the other. You have to have the lower third to find out what tragedy you're viewing. And yesterday afternoon, while I was watching, our evacuation order had been rescinded. But until you actually go to your room, Vinny, with your suitcase and pack that bag, which we had to do yesterday, and decide which of your mementos and treasures and valuables you're going to take and which ones you're going to leave, you can't even think in those terms. You think, well, I'll just organize myself. No. I couldn't even close the zipper on my suitcase. My hands were trembling so much as we were getting ready to go. And we staged the objects we were going to take by the front door and waited for the next round, which was going to be, now you must evacuate. We were going to go to my daughter's place in Woodland Hills, which was the site yesterday of the Kenneth fire.
Still
And before
is.
we could even go to my daughter's house to settle in for that evacuation, they were evacuated. And that was the way we started yesterday evening with my daughter, her husband, and our two grandchildren leaving their home in Woodland Hills, going to Steve's sister's house in Silver Lake in the Hollywood Hills, and they were evacuated before we were. And the fire was fought by helicopters, which put it down in an incredibly quick time. They didn't let it grow. The reaction of the fire departments, Cal Fire, the flotilla of helicopters that dropped water on that fire, put that damn thing out when it didn't even get to 200 acres, and it happened so fast. The growth of the fire and then the proper fighting of the fire. If you can fight it with helicopters, you can win. You couldn't fight the Eaton Canyon fire with helicopters because it was in the foothills, and the buffeting of the extraordinary hurricane force winds made it impossible to fly helicopters or fixed wing in that neighborhood. So they couldn't fight the fire with an air attack, and there was no way, no power on earth that was going to stop it street to street. So all those homes just burned, one setting fire to the next, and they burned so quickly and they burned so suddenly that it was something that everyone has seen on television all around the world now. Is the coverage of the. By the way, the coverage for Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, and Channel 9, Channel 11, all of them going wall to wall, no commercials, for 3 days. While we were calling in fire departments from all around the country and all around the state to help us fight these fires, so did they call in reporters from their affiliate stations and volunteers from television stations all over the West who joined us to report from the streets. And the local television and radio went 24/7 wall to wall, no commercials, and the coverage was extraordinary.
Yeah, I watched it from up here. You know, one of the great things today about things like YouTube, and you can certainly um, say that YouTube and different social media services are contributing to the demise of our country. But when you have an event like this, uh, it is unbelievable the service that they provide because I could tune into the live coverage on 2 or 4 or 5 or 9 or 13 or whichever, Fox, CBS, NBC. Um, I tend to gravitate toward CBS because I just like their style of news. It's less to
They
always
were
to me
they,
less
they were first to go
sensational.
wall to wall. KCAL Channel 9 down here,
Yeah, yeah, at KCAL, and they were
which at one time
um,
was KHJ Television.
providing just a service to. I don't know if they were providing a service to the people in the fire zone because you're not watching TV if you're in the fire zone, are you?
No,
That's where radio comes in my mind. That's where people are getting in their cars and they're turning on KCB, KNX, or KFI or whatever AM or FM radio stations.
KFI just fired their news staff member a couple months ago, so that was timing that couldn't be duplicated, thanks to iHeartMedia.
There's no time like the right time, and uh, you know, to watch the reporters and the people who are charged with going out there and getting these stories and telling the story of what's going on, I thought was fantastic.
And it
You
kept
know,
us
this
united because the San Fernando Valley and the San Gabriel Valley and the Pacific Palisades are all miles away from one another. LA spread out all over the place. And fires were cropping up with no notice and with no warning from Pasadena all the way to the coast. And one of the most chilling pictures you'll see, Vinny, and I know you know the Pacific Coast Highway, is that when the fire got to the Pacific Coast Highway, which has always been a fire block, a fire stop, a fire preventer, the fire just jumped over the Pacific Coast Highway with the high winds and burned everything that was on that one lane of homes that run on the beach from Santa Monica all the way to Malibu to Zuma Beach. There's a single line of houses that used to run up the coast, and they're all gone.
those I had a friend when I first, well, not when I first started to come to California, but I want to say 1978 or so, 77. Came out to California.
He said, "Vinny, you won't believe it. They got houses right on the sand."
And well, I had been down there before, and but I never really paid much attention to it. But if you're on that strip of the Pacific Coast Highway, as you come south from Malibu, from what is it, Point Magoo, I guess is
Yeah,
up there, up at that end,
sure.
and you're coming south, um, about halfway in that row of houses, a friend of mine had a house there. Somebody I knew from New York had a house from the theater in New York had a house there, and I always and I remember we went there, and you walk in the house, so there's an archway, and as soon as you walk in the house, you're
There's
blown
the
away with the
ocean.
beach. It's one of the things that grabbed me and said, "My God, I want to live out here."
Well, the
This
beach is
is.
still there and the ocean is still there, but everything else is gone.
I also remember about that strip is And you know me, I'm a car guy. So I noticed things about cars. And I noticed that the cars that were parked, people park their cars on PCH
Right there on the side of the road.
on the side of the road. And the thought occurred to me, I'm driving down and I'm looking, and the thought occurred to me, he said, you know, uh, don't these people get tickets? And what I didn't know when I got there, I found out subsequently, is that as I looked a little bit more, every car, of course, people covered their cars.
Right.
Every car had the license plate number spray painted on the car cover. And I don't know why I thought it was the weirdest thing in the world, but it was the weirdest thing in the world. Now, Mikey, talk about the PCH a little more, because that's the thing that most people don't venture up into those hills. They come down Sunset, they get to the corner. If I remember right, and again, it's been years for me, there was an old motel as you got to Sunset, as you got to PCH at Sunset. To the right was the gas station. To the left was um, an old motel at the Sunset Motel. I remember because I stayed there a few times. The Sunset Motel. Now, I think the Sunset Motel is long gone, but there's also, if I'm not mistaken, a restaurant. If you make a right on the coast side of the PCH highway, isn't there like a famous kind
It's
of
gone.
restaurant there?
It's gone now. Gladstone's was the name of it.
What was it gone already, or is it burned?
No, it burned.
It burned. Gladstones, that's it.
And the real inn was another fish place in Malibu that was a favorite. That's gone. There's hardly anything that made it because the wind was blowing toward the ocean, and
Yeah.
so it blew the fire right down the hill. When it got to the bottom, it jumped the road in an instant. The embers flying and starting new fires ahead of themselves. Impossible to fight. Uh, the the effort right now is to save Topanga because it hasn't burned yet and it's ready to go. We haven't had a drop of rain since May of last year, so the dry conditions are historic, and the winds are back again a bit today. We're going to have more for the weekend, and then we'll finally get a break next week for a bit. But
Sunday again, the windstorm.
the end result is our real enemy was the wind. The fire
Yeah.
by itself was not able to do this damage without the help of the wind, and the wind drove it. Well, you've seen pictures of palm trees with sparks and embers flying off of them, and then just an amazing rate, like a bazooka firing, like a Tommy gun shooting in the St. Valentine's Day massacre. There was no stopping it. There was no controlling it. There was no running from it in many cases. One of the oddest stories of this whole event is going to be the cars that were abandoned on Sunset.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
That's
the way in and out of the way in and out of Pacific Palisades is one road, Sunset Boulevard. There's not two. There's not a choice of roads. There's not, you can take this one. You can take that one. You could take Sunset or you could die in your car. And when Sunset got clogged and the fire was going faster than the traffic, the cops said, "Get out of your cars and run on foot. And go to the beach. Head toward the water." Well, that was a good idea for that 5 minutes of advice. But then the cars were burned out and jamming the road, and now the fire trucks can't get through. And that was an extraordinary turn of events that was just absurd, but real. It happened. So they bulldozed the cars out of the way. Now those cars are still in the way. Now they're burned out hulks on the side of the road on Sunset Boulevard, and they're still blocking traffic.
I'll be
And
back in a
the,
second, Mikey. Why did they do that? Just to get people out right away? Why didn't they have cops down at the end of Sunset moving traffic south on Sunset
PCH.
towards Santa Monica? Is
Well,
there any thought?
there was only one way in and one way out. So some people were coming in, some people were going out, but they had one road, not a highway, not a four-laner, but one road. And the traffic was jammed heading out which was heading toward the coast, head toward the water, head west, and the traffic was jammed, but the fire was not putting on the brakes and it started jumping the road and going over the cars that were stuck in traffic. So the cops said, if you stay in your car, you're going to burn. So get out of your car, run for the coast, run for the beach, and that's your way to safety. It's your only way to safety. But they left their cars behind. And then the fire trucks were behind them, couldn't access the Palisades. So they had to come up with a way to move the cars, the burned out or the abandoned cars. By the way, these cars were full of everybody's belongings. They had packed their car and tried to make a run for it, like you would. They took a lot of stuff, filled the trunk, filled the back seat, got their pets in there, and then had to make another decision to leave it all behind, to take their dog, to take one suitcase, and to walk through the smoke and the fire to the beach. And that was the choice they had to make, and it was made quickly, and it was made without any preparation, and it was a fateful choice because those cars remain behind. They're still there today, as a matter of fact. Those cars remain behind.
Sunday.
Hmm?
The wind's coming back on Sunday.
And so that one decision saved people from dying in their cars, but condemned the firefight to be more difficult because the cars were in the way of trucks, which only had one access route to the fire itself. Pacific Coast Highway does connect with Santa Monica. You got to come from the south to the PCH, but then you couldn't get up Sunset to access the fire from the beach side. You couldn't get down Sunset to escape the fire from the Palisades side, and so it was the perfect storm of the evacuation route was limited to one country road for thousands and thousands of people. Now, how many people were we talking about? Well, 100,000 evacuated from that area. And they all had to go on foot or in the car. That was the only choice there was. And they had to go on one road because there was not two to choose from. And it was that situation that we're still suffering with today. And the decisions that were made at that moment in haste are still haunting the folks who either lost everything in the fire or lost all their belongings that they packed in their evacuation in their car, or both. First I lost my house, then I lost everything I saved from my house, and then I lost my car on top of it. So the levels of tragedy are repeating themselves all over the place with another name attached to it. What was your fire? Well, mine was the Eaton fire. What was your fire? Mine was the Palisades fire. Mine was the Kenneth fire. Mine was the Sylmore fire. The list is ongoing, and if the winds come back as they are today, there could be another. By the way, there was the Hollywood fire. Don't forget the Nichols Canyon fire, which happened after sunset on the second day, and threatened to burn Central Hollywood and the Hollywood Bowl and all those tree-lined Hollywood Hill communities. They were at real risk, and if they hadn't have got that fire when they did, because it goes from 20 acres to 200 acres in 30 minutes, the wind-driven fire, until you see that wind blow the embers across an entire city, you can't envision what's in store for Los Angeles if this gets going again. And there's nothing to prevent it. So the winds are going to return, and we have to stay vigilant to put out those fires.
We often think, especially those of us who have not lived in LA, but maybe have hung out there, several times. We think of LA as a wide, spread out place where nobody really talks to anybody. Everybody, gets in their car and goes where they're going and comes back. But much to the contrary, neighborhoods like Pasadena, neighborhoods like the hills there, the
Palisades.
Pacific Palisades, Malibu, these are all pretty tight neighborhoods. These are all places where everybody knows everybody, or most everybody. Now it's a higher income, upper, at the very least, an upper middle class in Pacific Palisades, and in the
Oh
case
yeah.
of Malibu, obviously, a rich neighborhood. If you're on that side of the hills looking at the ocean, you got some bucks. Um, what is the character of the people? I mean, these seem to be some very tight knit neighborhoods where people um, that this is not like if you burn a block out in New York City, people scatter, and that's just maybe the last they ever see of each other. If
Right.
you burn out a neighborhood in Los Angeles, in this part of Los Angeles, is the same true there, or is this a neighborhood where people will eventually, and I know it's early, but eventually try to come back and recreate what had been there?
That's going to be interesting to see, Vinny, because the destruction is so total and so ugly and so daunting, and the fear and exhaustion and worry have been so widespread. Uh, my daughter went through it last night with with my grandkids and her husband. They had no warning whatsoever that this fire was going to start. There's no preset condition for everybody to be really alert now. It could be your neighborhood next, because they had no warning that the fire was going to start, no warning that it grew to 200 acres in the matter of minutes, and the alerts went out, and everyone was told to get out of that neighborhood, and that was the end of it. They didn't say go to somebody you love, go to someplace safe. They just said go. If you don't have someplace to go, get on the freeway and go somewhere. And they had no knowledge when they left yesterday afternoon that they'd ever see their home again. I said to Kristen, "Is this the last day we're going to spend in this place? Is this our last night in this bed in this place with our stuff?" She said, "Oh, it's not going to burn down," and she was right. But when you pack your bag to go, there's no pamphlet to look at and say, "When can you come back?" Maybe never. This is it. You're not going because it's an exercise. You're going because you must go. And there's no guarantee that you'll ever return. It's a
Which
freaky
sounds like a
feeling.
red flag warning.
It reminds me of that. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Thief with James Caan and no, it's not James Caan. I'm sorry, it's Al Pacino and
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro and Amy Brenneman
Yeah, I did see that.
done out at the and Neil McCauley, the thief, the main thief, the guy that organizes the thing, says, "This is the life. You can never have anything that you can't pick up, put in a bag, and leave in a minute."
Yep, that's what you do. This is how you
And
live.
that's oddly familiar in what you're saying. Is that you basically have to have a bag, or keep your stuff, your baby pictures, your all your important stuff in a place where you can basically grab it and go in a minute.
But if all your valuables are in a bag, you might as well not have them. Pretty soon you just say, "What am I carrying this shit around for? I should just go."
Well, it starts to teach you about the value of stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It starts, I think, in some ways to teach you that the stuff that you have is the stuff that you have here.
It reminds me so much of the COVID days, because I was up early this morning just to get water. We can't drink our water here in Pasadena. You can shower in it, you can wash your hands in it, you can clean your dishes in it, but you can't drink it.
Can't.
And the supply of bottled water yesterday afternoon was non-existent. No store had any. And so this morning, I got the last two bottles at a Safeway. And the guy that was putting them out said, "This is the end of it." I said, "Let me help you. I'll take these two." And that was it. That was their supply was gone. Their shelves were empty. And this morning, I was in line with other people to get a case of water at Trader Joe's and to get another case of water at Pavilions. And that's the way it's going to be. There's a level of anxiety that doesn't go away. Because every time you turn on the television, which the whole world was watching, another fire starts in another neighborhood. And when that happens, you know that that means that that neighborhood is going to be ground central for any kind of tragedy, any kind of multiplication of how bad can it get, times 10, times 100, times forever. And will that fire start a fire in the city next to it? Yes, it will. Which one? You don't know. So you're watching TV to find out where the next fire is going to be, and what the reaction is, and what the evacuation route is, and how many people are on the road, and what freeways. When we were getting ready to evacuate, there was a fire in the Sepulveda Flats near the 101 in the San Fernando Valley. And if that fire had gotten crazy, it would have cut off the exit on Highway 101 for the entire city, for 10 million people. There was going to be no way out. And that meant that if you evacuated, you were just in a car, and it was worse than being in your apartment, because now you were stuck and able to fall victim to any natural disaster that would befall you on your evacuation route. Which way out? This way. Which way south? No, you can't go south. You can't go north. You can't take 101. The fire last night was a couple miles from the 405, the most traveled freeway in the West.
Yeah.
And if you know that the fire is 1 mile from the freeway, what's your plan? How are you going to stop it? Well, there was no way to stop the fire. There was no way to bulldoze it into submission. There was no way to fly water tenders and fixed-wing aircraft over it at 10 o'clock at night. They had to hope that the winds were going to help them out, so that the freeway that was going to be the evacuation route would not be destroyed along with everything else. And that's the one thing we've avoided so far. Sunset Boulevard, of course, is famous for being clogged during the Pacific Palisades fire.
Right.
But every street's got its own story. You remember when you came into town, you were in spring training. We had pastrami sandwiches at a restaurant called The Hat.
Right.
Well, that restaurant where we gathered was on Lake Avenue. Lake Avenue is the main drag from Pasadena to Altadena up the hills into the fire zone. And Lake Avenue now is a burned out hulk about halfway up that hill. All the
Wow.
businesses are gone. All the houses are gone. Everything is gone. The community is gone. The fire stations are gone. The schools are gone. The churches are gone. Every grocery store is gone. It's as if the town was erased overnight. Same thing for Pacific Palisades, the village where the Gilson's Market used to be, where Starbucks used to be. There are no stores left. There is no village anymore where people can shop, where people gathered, where people would stand in line to get their water during the COVID days. All of that is gone. The town has been erased, and the homes around it decimated to a great extent. Not all of them, but most of them. Not everyone's been burned out, but most people have. Not everyone's dead, but a few are. And not everyone's car got burned, but a lot of them did. And the streets are littered with this crap. And how are you going to clear that and start driving a nail to build your house back? The recovery, I think, is going to be at a scale that will amaze even the most hardened observers. What faces California right now is the politicians are warning the insurance companies. We know what you're doing. You're trying to adjust this so that you pay nothing, so that you avoid responsibility, so that you can shave people off on what their coverage is, or whether they have any coverage whatsoever. And they've been warned. Now, what good does it do to warn an insurance company? But watch the news from now on out as they begin to evade their responsibility to their clients.
Well, I hope that isn't the case. I know it will be, because I know insurance companies.
Yep.
But I guess my question starts to become, I'm not going to go there because this is something that'll I'll have plenty of time to talk about later. Because I mean, insurance companies, at what point do they start saying we don't write insurance for people anymore?
It used to be a business. Now there's no way to make a buck.
Right, it's a business, and the reason that we do it is because we can make a buck at it. And with all of these fires, all of these natural disasters, all of these things that are going on,
Too many claims.
too many claims where, our loss ratios used to be at this. It's why in like New York City, they wouldn't write auto theft insurance
Well,
because so many people were getting their cars stolen.
those insurance companies are going to go upside down here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's already a ton of insurance companies that aren't writing insurance in California anymore.
Not for fire, not for earthquake.
Not for fire, not for earthquake. Maybe you can get liability, but that's it. Just as there's other ones that are stopping to write flood. Excuse me, flood. Um, Now and you know me that I have to bring this up. As we head on up into Altadena, there is a place called the Mountain View Cemetery.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with it.
George Reeve is buried there.
George Reeves is buried at the Altadena Cemetery.
Well, if he ever walks around that cemetery at night and views his resting place, he got quite a view the other night. I'm sure that George has come to the conclusion that it was time to move on.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that this fire started on January 5th, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Was it, let's see, today is the
Today's the 10th.
10th. So yesterday would have been the 9th. Thursday would have been, so yeah, or was it the 6th?
I think
Anyway,
it started on the 6th.
okay. According to the marker on George Reeves' grave, his birthday is January 6th.
It was a hell of a party he threw, I'll tell you that.
Blame it on Superman. I guess that's on. I guess that's on Fair Oaks Avenue in Altadena.
Way up the hill. Gets pretty steep when you go up there. It's a beautiful neighborhood.
Yeah, I've been up there. Yeah.
Of course you have. You're a George Reeves freak.
Hey, Superman. World ain't been the same since Superman left.
We could have used him yesterday or the day before. Or we could, if he's in town, we could use him today. Find something for him to do.
What was the thought of people who were watching the bulldozers pushing cars, pushing Teslas off to the side? I mean, I got a certain little satisfaction out of it, to tell you the truth. I hate to say that, but pushing Teslas off to the side with a bulldozer, I would have volunteered for that duty.
Yeah, let me help you there.
Oh man, yeah, it's a shame. Now, Michael, what's needed? What can people do immediately? I know what's going to be needed is building materials and construction people and contractors, but the fires aren't even out yet. What is
That's the extraordinary thing. The fire burned so hot and so total, and the homes were destroyed in such a complete way that everything that is in shambles and ruins is hot. And if the winds come back again today, as they're threatening to do, that's going to start them again. And not just you say, well, that house is burned. What can it do? It can send its embers to the next house, to the next tree, to the next neighborhood. And
Yeah.
if those embers are flying at 60 miles an hour, there's no stopping it. The fire will stay ahead of you all night long. You'll never catch it. Without a helicopter, you'll never know what direction it's burning in. And the totality of the destruction is swift and unrelenting. It was fascinating and horrible to see.
You know, and of course, I'm just thinking out loud here, but it's, I don't know, how you, if there's anything you can do, you just, I think you take for granted that you live in this beautiful land, that as
What could possibly go wrong?
right, and then one day, because of whatever different circumstances, you find out that it can be taken from you in a wink of an eye.
Just with the weather pattern, a hard low on the west coast, a hard high in Arizona, and that's all it took to create those winds.
And it's something that's an annual occurrence. It happens, every year, which is what annual is. But
The Santa Anas blow all the time, but never like this. No one's ever seen winds like this.
um, I all right. What else do I have? I have a million questions buzzing around in my head.
Well,
What
watch
about
out.
the?
Well, if you're thinking about donating money to help, watch out for scammers. You've got to check out where your money's going because the scammers are up and operating already.
Oh, that was exactly what I was going to ask you. Not just the scammers, but what about the? I'm never one of these guys, Michael. That I'm not a shoot to kill guy. I don't think a lot of times that value of property is more than the value of life. But I got to tell you that when I heard yesterday that there were people already in there looting these burnt out houses and sifting through the ashes of these houses to steal stuff,
Shoot to kill.
I got to admit, I wanted to hear I wanted to hear the sheriff say shoot to kill.
It's not the sheriff today that you're going up against. The National Guard is guarding both the Palisades fire and the Eaton Canyon fire. The armed representatives of the government are on the streets of those cities, and when they say you're not coming through, they mean it. You're not coming through. So the level of protection and the level of we're not going to have any looting in this neighborhood. That the boots are on the ground, as they say, and they're here to protect. Access to those neighborhoods is strictly verboten, and if you found yourself in those neighborhoods and you're apprehended by the patrol, you're under arrest for starters. And may God have mercy on your soul when the judge says it's time to accept your sentence, because I don't think it's going to be. I don't think there's any appeal to people's better nature is going to change the outcome of your case. Those are going to be the
Yeah,
lowest of the low.
I can't understand how. Well, I can't understand. I think there's just people that are scumbags, and they're scumbags no matter what. Their whole edict.
And you can hear their justification. Well, so what? They were all rich. They're not going to miss a diamond ring that I might find in the ground. Who did I harm? What law did I break? What did I do wrong? How was I supposed to know?
Well, you're supposed to know by not going into that neighborhood that that's private property, that's people's houses, that's people's memories.
And now it's going to be harder for the homeowners to get in for that very reason. The no access rule is in place. That means you can't. You can stand at the barricade and say, "I want to see my house." Nope. I want to check for my medicine. Nope. We're looking for Fluffy, our dog. No. The answer to all the people who want access to their own neighborhood is going to be no, because it has to be blanket black and white. Nobody gets in. But what about me? I live there. Nobody gets in. But just me. I've got a story I want to tell you. Maybe you let me in. And the answer is no. So at least there's a level of protection now that wasn't there just yesterday
Oh.
in terms of the National Guard.
Unfortunately,
and when you think about it, it's a black and white decision, Vinny. You can imagine if you had to make it for everyone, you'd make it black and white.
yeah, I don't disagree with it. I hate the fact that it is like that, but that is the world we live in today.
Yep.
We live in a world where people will go in and loot. And you know what? To be honest with you, I don't think it's just today.
No.
I think it's been like this for, this is just human nature.
And one other thing that we're worried about now is scalping. The price of gas, the price of water, the price of cheeseburgers. Once those prices start to fluctuate, and instead of giving people food and making it easier for them to navigate the loss that they've suffered, they make it harder. They gouge, and that I think those penalties have to be strict and unforgiving as well.
Profiteering. Imagine that.
They've already been warned. They've been warned. If you do it, someone's gonna report you. We'll find you, and we'll put things right.
Unbelievable. Oh, Mikey. What do you need anything? Is there anything that we can do for you?
We're good. We're among the lucky. We prepared to evacuate. We did not have to evacuate. My daughter's family had to evacuate. Now they're back in their home. So all concerned in my family skated in comparison to what happened to so many others.
Will these neighborhoods be able to rebuild again?
Years. I'm predicting years. And some neighborhoods will never recover. The level of destruction is just so total.
Unbelievable.
Everyone says it looks like a war zone, but what war can you name where everything gets destroyed?
Yeah, there was. I was looking at an interview with a woman who was on CNN earlier this morning, and she said that it looked like pictures that her mother had from Berlin.
Yeah.
In the 1940s. That it was such a total devastation.
Yep. Every building, every street.
Yeah, it looked like Dresden, which was probably the worst hit of all the German cities.
One of the things that I'm getting used to is the piles of branches from the firestorm the first night when all the trees came down. There's been no way to assess all the wood that's laying about, all the yards that are full of trees and branches, and there's piles of leaves, piles of branches, piles of broken trees everywhere around Pasadena. Everywhere you look, every block. And we're just incorporating that into our everyday now. Well, you can't park there with a tree in the way. You can't drive there, the trees are down. You'd think, well, just get somebody with a chainsaw. Okay. We don't have that many guys with that many chainsaws to rectify this on every block. And if there's one thing that Pasadena is known for, it's a leafy community. There are trees everywhere. It's not the desert. There's magnolia trees on our street, hundreds of them. And boy, did they break.
Well, one thing that I can tell you about that I know because I actually volunteered for it, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, because as you could imagine, there are so many logisticals that have to go into it. A group of, I'm just trying to find the the group that there's an automotive journalist group that let me see how I can explain this. There's an automotive journalist group that is nationwide that is a group of people that review cars, test cars, do basically what I do.
Right.
Last night, Joel Fetter, who is the head of that group, I mean, not really the head of it. It's a conglomeration of people who are on Facebook. I think he's in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, his he started contacting car companies, and the car companies, especially with car companies that produce electric vehicles, the type of electric vehicles that you can take the electricity and plug it into a house and it'll provide electricity to the house. Also, cars for volunteers, people that are in this group, to go down to LA and move people around in the fire zone once it's safe, once the clearance is there, once they say okay, you can go in. And the response has been overwhelming. It's really been
You can use the car as a power source.
right. Use the car as a power source. I mean, we're looking at the future here a little bit. It's unfortunate that it has to come this way, but there's all these electric cars that are sitting around, and I know that that Ford, General Motors, Nissan, uh, uh, Stellantis. Stellantis has been what the rep for Stellantis lives in Southern California. That all of these different car companies have said we're at the ready. We have there's a car company, it's a relatively new electric car company called Ineos,
Yeah, I know them.
and they make Jeeps.
Well, that's going to be helpful because you pull up the power source to a place that has no power, no electricity to an entire neighborhood, to an entire city, to an entire area, and begin your work that way. Because someone's going to have to clear these lots before any work can be done. And I just don't know. The only examples I can think of is when a good part of Santa Rosa burned, the town of Paradise burned here in California,
Right.
where a town gets erased from the map. How do you come back when there's no stores, no schools, no homes? What's your first step? Well, now we have a huge area of Los Angeles. No stores, no schools, no homes,
My God,
no
these
power,
kids.
no water.
Anyway, so there has been a large number of people who have volunteered cars, trucks, and time to go down to Los Angeles. Um, I put my name in, so who knows? I might have to sleep on your couch. Uh, but at least people are coming up with creative ideas to try to help.
And taking the time to make sure you shop locally with the stores that are still there is going to be important for our neighborhoods too. And the speed with which all these cities, all these homes, all these lives were changed, were erased, were burned to the ground is just that's the part that's why I'm so exhausted. That's why I'm so tired today. Is that it was too much happening at once, almost impossible to follow it. You had to be glued to your screen to find out what fire you had to fear next, what area was being evacuated now, who's valley was on fire this time, and the weather is cooperating to a small extent. We've had a break in the winds, but they're not going to be gone. They're going to be back for a couple of days through the weekend and maybe next week as well.
New Friday.
Not It's going to be a factor, but it's not going to be as destructive. But now it doesn't have to be as destructive. Everything's in place for the winds and the fire to pick up where they left off in certain areas. And if that happens, I don't know if LA can keep taking these 1-2 punches.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you start to think that there's too many people in an area, right?
Well, there's 10 million of us in LA. That's a lot of folks.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of
It
cars.
always
to burn.
amazes me. There's 10 million people in LA, and if you drive through Watch Your Step, Wyoming, there's 11 people living there.
Yeah. Watch your step. Watch your step when you're there. That's my advice to you. They didn't call it walk anywhere you want, Arizona. They call it watch your step, Arizona.
Watch Your Step, Wyoming.
Do you need another warning, or is that one sufficient?
Well, Michael, I'm glad you're okay, pal. I'm
It was a close one.
I was worried about you, as were many people. My my
We were worried
stepmom,
about ourselves.
yeah, my stepmom was again. I don't know if you saw all the stuff in the comments, but also to my friend Peter Sansone, who lives down there. He's been packed and ready to go. I forget exactly where he is. Um, a number of people that I know that live along there. To my buddy Stormy, who lost his house because his I don't know if he's still there, but I know that his family still owns that house
Where? Altadena or Palisades?
on PCH.
Yeah,
So that house is probably gone.
they're all gone.
And the fact that there's a liquor store. I'll tell you this story before we go, because you know me, I always have a million stories about every place I've gone.
This one starts with the liquor store in Watch Your Step, Arizona.
No, this is a liquor store that is on the right side of the Pacific Coast Highway, probably less than about a mile and a half down from up from Sunset.
It's on the
This would be
hillside.
going north. And you can tell this liquor store because it's a round store. It's not just a square building. It's a round pavilion type building. And it's a liquor store / convenience store way before the days of 7-Eleven and AM PM and all of those other places. This is where you go. So my brother and I are in the liquor store. This is that same trip, 1977. 76. We're in there, and we're in the store. Guy behind the counter gets a phone call. He's saying, "Well, I got nobody. But I got nobody. But I got nobody." We're just walking around the store trying to figure out what we want to get to eat. And, but I got nobody. So all of a sudden, the guy takes the phone, puts his hand over the phone. He says, "Would you guys be interested in making $5?" And I says, "Yeah, why not? You got a car? Yeah, why not?" Hand over the phone. "Would you make a delivery for me?" "Yeah, what the hell? Why not? We made $5. Plus, the guy gave us the food that we were the drinks. We were getting a bunch of sodas and stuff, and yeah, we'll run the stuff up wherever we got to go. Says guy says, "Oh, it's just right up in the hills, right up, right up. All right, I'll tell the guy you're coming. All right. So I had a Dodge, no, Plymouth Satellite station wagon,
Oh
a
my God.
72 tan Plymouth Satellite station wagon. So we get the bus guy's got a box. Get the box. It's got liquor bottles in it, mostly. A couple other bags with some stuff. We put it in the back of the station wagon. He says, "Here's the address. You go right up here in case, though. Here's a map. If you get lost, because some of the streets run. You got to look at the streets because some of them go this way, and then they stop going that way for a second, and then they pick up again. All right, so
Plus they're little streets.
they're little streets. So we find it. There's no GPS in those days. You got to use your brains to find someplace. So we go up, we get up, and we find the house. So it's got a long driveway. Hit the thing on the fence.
The call box.
Hey, we're here from the liquor store. We got a delivery for you. Okay, come on in. Fence swings open. We go in. Door opens. Flip fucking Wilson.
But I got nobody.
So I just looked at him and I says, "We're your nobodies." Give him the stuff. So he
It's
gave us
us, what
$10 a piece
Oh God.
and sat and talked to us for a couple of minutes. Know that those days, phones, no cameras. You don't take a picture with somebody. We didn't even think to get an autograph. It's just Flip Wilson. He's got some friggin' party going on inside there.
He needed backup.
And he needed a replenishment. And that's our
That's a great LA story. That's the way it works.
that's the way it works in LA. That's the story. That's when we were young and dumb. Well, my brother wasn't new to LA because he was stationed in El Toro.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was the same trip we met. We met a bunch of people on that trip. We met Ringo Starr.
Whoa.
We met Ringo Starr. I'll tell you where we met Ringo Starr in the alley between the Rainbow. Is it the Rainbow and the Whiskey?
Could
No, I don't
be.
think it's the Rainbow. It might be the Rainbow and the Whiskey. There's an alley.
Off Sunset.
And we met Ringo driving his Mercedes looking for dope.
Like he
Well,
did.
not dope, pills.
He needed a backup for his party too.
He needed a little backup for his party, a little smaller than Flip Wilson's, I think.
Little easier to carry, but still had to be acquired.
So, just to think about the people I've met in LA and, the time I spent in that area, is it's heartbreaking.
Well, the reminders are out there. The air is full of crap. There's so many particulates. The ash is falling on all the neighborhoods today. The sun is a sickly orange color because of the crap in the sky. And the level of anxiety and fear is right there, right underneath everything. Everybody in every store is talking about it. Everybody in every situation is watching the news. And for this Friday and this weekend coming up, we're just going to be hoping that the winds don't return and that the fires are done. But
We're not done.
I can't tell you how weird it was to have a city with 5 fires burning all at once. And no control possible.
I
No,
just
no, no power on earth was going to stop that from happening.
I can't imagine. Well, you know what? I can imagine because I was near the Santa Barbara fire in what was it, 78, I think, or 79. I was in Santa Barbara for that fire. And of
Montecito
course,
fire,
excuse me,
burned Montecito.
yeah, burned half of Santa Barbara. Didn't get to the downtown, which was good, but everything around the downtown it took down.
Up in the hills.
And of course, uh, I was in Oakland
For the hill fire.
for the Hill Fire. Just prior to leaving to come up to Seattle.
That was another fire driven by wind.
Yeah, but that was one that could have been stopped.
They left the smoldering. They didn't manage it.
They didn't manage that fire. When they put that fire out, they didn't put it out.
Right.
They left it there. They should have never won away from that fire until it was dead.
And that's the problem that we're facing now in both Palisades and the Eaton Canyon, is the fire is not out, but where you think it's done, it ain't.
Kenneth Fire still happening.
Well, Mikey, I pray for you. I pray for Kristen. Whatever you guys need that we can help you with.
Right now, we're good. We're lucky our lives were upended for a couple days, and maybe we'll be again in the next few. But the whole family, including our daughter and her kids and husband, have managed to dodge this bullet. But how many more times can you get evacuated? How many more times can your neighborhood be threatened before something terrible happens? And I don't have an answer to that because no one saw this one coming.
Let me ask this before I let you go, it's just an off the. Do you ever think about going back up to Northern California, or I mean, I know you're close to your grandchildren down there, and but I mean, does that thought with all these fires and everything that's going on, does that ever cross your mind that maybe it's you live in too dangerous a place that's much more suited to young people that can run faster?
Only the sprinters would have made it away from this one, that's for sure. Yeah, it occurred to me that the kids might move back up there for that very reason.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to grow up in this, right? That's although
As you know, I'm a
to go.
Californian, so I have a hard time turning my back on the home.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It was, but I'll tell you something, Michael. I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah, I know.
My every thread of my body inside is a New York thread. But when the situation got so bad that the quality of life was such that I feared walking down the street, that I feared coming out of my house at 6 in the morning and getting in my car that somebody was going to stick a gun in my ribs and shoot me
For nothing.
for nothing, for nothing. That I feared that I sat in a diner having a cup of coffee with three of my friends at a table, and somebody walked in and put a gun to my head.
But look how Queens has changed since those days. It's become an international borough. Food from all over the world, people from everywhere on the planet, all of them adopting New York as their home and adopting Queens as their turf. And it's
Yeah.
it's it's a better, safer, more exciting place now than it was in the one you described. Not that you have to go back. I don't want you to. I think Seattle has adopted you. So
Well, I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay here. To be honest with you, there's there's different things in the works that may get me um,
Get you
I don't
moving.
know. It may cause me to leave Seattle at some point. Nothing yet. But we're getting old, Michael.
Well,
Don't
go
we
ahead.
deserve to be? Don't we deserve to be comfortable in our older years? I mean, we've worked. You and I. I mean, we
More
we've
shows.
worked. We've worked together for 40 years, pal.
Yeah. The people are lucky to have had us. They were lucky.
You, you know, in one sense or another, since 1985.
Since Bruce Blevins was alive.
Since KRQR and the city, I mean, we've had an association with each other. Since the 1986 World Series.
I had to wear Tug McGraw's jersey and run
Yeah,
across
I still got the jersey.
the hilly streets of San Francisco.
I I haven't told you this, but I'm going to have you buried in it. Uh, so you'll never forget.
Just my luck. I won't forget, but it's just my luck. Is he saying mug? No, he's saying tug, but I'm a mug for having to wear it.
I just sometimes, Michael, I just want a few years where we're not thinking about all of this shit.
Where do you suggest we go?
I don't know.
Donald Trump is going to make our list a short one.
A small
Guys,
station in Reno, Nevada.
Okay, acceptable.
An FM station is floundering.
A large enough market so we can make a footprint. That's the program director calling. He just got fired.
It's actually Janet. It's actually Janet
Haggleby.
Magleby, wondering how you're doing.
I'm lucky, Janet. I'm lucky. Luckiest guy on the planet. There's a lot of people within blocks of me don't have that story to tell.
I'm glad.
The hat is still there, Vinnie. When you come to town, we'll have pastrami.
I'm glad you're all right, my friend.
My pleasure. My pleasure to be the bearer of good news. We're fine.
I'm glad you and your family are all right.
Luckiest guy on the planet, me.
I was worried about you. I really was.
It was a situation where worry was going to be aptly placed. I was worried too.
I know. All right, listen.
I still never got the zipper shut on my suitcase. By the way, I couldn't do it. Couldn't fucking do it. My hands wouldn't help me.
So you get up enough energy to sprint down the street, and there's all your shit flying out of your suitcase.
Why'd you zip it? I couldn't zip it. Okay, I couldn't. Why don't you zip it?
It was either zip the thing or sprint with the thing. Which way? Which one do you want? We can either be losing our drawers or losing our lives.
Those are nice drawers, by the way.
All right. Well, you want to meet back here on Monday?
I think we better.
Hopefully things will be better.
Well,
I'm
they
glad
can't be
you're
worse.
all right, Michael.
I can't figure a scenario where they would be worse, Vinny.
Yeah. And listen, thank you to the people from the oh man, I can hardly talk. Thank you to everybody who was concerned enough to check in about Michael. Thank you to the folks at the automotive media Facebook group, Automotive Media Professionals Facebook group.
You came up with a good idea, guys.
That put this effort together. And I don't know where or how or which way it's going to go. And but hopefully it'll go. And thank you all for listening. Don't forget drive time tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. You know what? I haven't even worked on the show. I don't know what the hell we're doing. I'm driving a Kia Palisade. I
Oh
didn't even think of
God.
that.
Holy
I
moly.
didn't even freaking think of that until just now.
This ain't the Jersey Palisade we're talking about. This is the West Coast.
This is the
Longer
West
distance.
Coast Kia Palisade. Boy, talk about the week to be driving a car. Wow. All right,
Okay,
man.
Vinny. I'll see you Monday at 10:10 or thereabouts.
Right. If the Lord's will and the creek don't rise.
The creek we could have used a little more creek
Yeah, you
than
could
we
use
took.
a little creek rising up there.
Yeah. Damn
And
right.
take care of yourself, Michael. Take care of your family. Take care of those around you. And
The whole town
peace,
of
love, and
10
Manischewitz, pal.
It's quite a while. We could have used Manischewitz to spray on this fire. See you, Vinny.
All right, Mikey. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. And thank you also for listening to our show. In the coming days and weeks, we'll let you know how you can help. We'll talk to Michael again Monday unless things really get crazy, and then we'll talk to him earlier than that. Please don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning for Drive Time Radio. That'll come at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning right here. And we will actually talk a little bit more about the fire efforts from automakers. I should say the rescue efforts automakers in Southern California. Oh man, I'm just glad nothing happened to Mikey. All right, listen, you take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you for listening.